The wind was already rising when Calder rig pulled onto the gravel lot. It howled through broken signposts and across the blistered skin of the desert highway, curling around the sagging canopy of the wrecked gas station like a ghost clinging to its last shelter. The sun was a dying ember on the far horizon, casting everything in bruised amber and dust. He stepped out of the truck slow. One boot landed in dry grit, the other in a patch of faded oil. He wore a welding jacket with patches over both shoulders and a cut on his cheek that hadn't fully healed. The world didn't look kindly on men like him anymore, ones who'd been blamed for fire. Even after the verdict read, "Not guilty," the pumps were dead. The lights above them flickered like a prayer half-finished. A broken payphone dangled from its cord like a hanged man. Calder approached the office, squinting into the smudged glass. Nothing, until movement. Faint. Small. In the shadows behind the counter, he pushed the door. It creaked open with the dry moan of neglect. Inside, it smelled of rot, rubber, and canned peaches gone sour. Dust hung in shafts through a cracked skylight. Empty chip bags lined the shelves. A radio hissed faint static behind the counter, dead air, no voice. Then came the sound, a sniffle, barely audible. Then, too, he turned 6 children, all under 10. All staring at him from the storeroom doorway like animals that had learned not to trust humans. One held a baby wrapped in a greasy blanket. Another gripped a bent screwdriver, like it was Excalibur. The oldest boy stepped in front of the others. His lip was split. His shirt 3 sizes too small read, "America's Future" in faded red letters, "Easy." Calder said, "Hands out." No one moved. He knelt slowly. "You hungry?" The oldest girl nodded once, fast. Calder backed out of the room, returned with a stale protein bar and a dented thermos of water from his truck. He left them on the counter, then sat on an upturned crate a good 6 feet away. The kids waited. The oldest made the call a quick nod. They rushed forward, devouring what little there was without a sound. He watched the girl with the screwdriver. Her eyes never left him. Outside, 2 pickups roared past. One slowed down. A man in a camo hat leaned out the window. "Well, look what the fire boy dragged in," he yelled, laughter. "Need help with your orphan army, Calder?" The truck peeled off. Calder didn't rise, didn't yell. Just leaned back and closed his eyes. He'd heard worse. Hadn't seen his own daughter since she was 4? Since before the trial. Since her mother's ashes had been lowered into the ground alongside 11 other bodies. He opened his eyes. The children were staring at him again. The girl with the screwdriver had inched closer. The baby made a dry, cracked sound that might have been a cough. The littlest boy held out a folded paper, oil-streaked and torn. Calder took it, a blueprint. Or part of one? The name at the corner was blurred, but he knew the layout by heart. The Dahlstrom refinery. The one that exploded. The one that ruined him. He looked up, but none of the children spoke. Only the wind did, rattling the roof, shoving sand through the seams in the wall. Night fell hard. Clouds swallowed the moon. Calder got the old generator sputtering. Enough to light 1 yellow bulb. The kids huddled near a portable heater he'd pulled from the bed of his truck. It hissed and clicked like it might quit any moment. He made canned beans on a rusty hot plate, fed them first. They ate like they hadn't in days, maybe longer. He used the last of his water to wash the baby's face. The infant barely stirred. 1. By 1, they fell asleep on tattered sleeping bags, some curled together like puppies, some alone, staring at the ceiling with hollow eyes. The girl with the screwdriver kept hers tucked under her shirt, even as her breathing slowed and deepened. Calder sat by the window, one hand resting on a crowbar, the other rubbing his shoulder where the burn scars stretched like branches. He didn't sleep. Not yet. At 2 a.m., the wind shifted. He smelled gasoline. Then headlights cut across the window brief, sweeping, gone. He rose, quiet, stepped outside. The night was pitch black but alive with tension. Coyotes howled. In the distance, chased by something unseen. A truck door slammed somewhere down the hill, and then nothing. He waited 10 minutes. Still nothing. Asterisk. He turned back inside only to find the screwdriver. Girl waiting by the door. She whispered something. 3 words. Asterisk. Bad men coming. And the next morning, they found the first warning. Asterisk. A single hawk feather, placed carefully on the hood of Calder's truck. Asterisk. The oldest boy flinched when he saw it. They mark what they want back. Asterisk. Calder frowned. What's that mean? No answer. He studied the horizon. No cars. No movement. But the sand had tracks barely visible. He followed them behind the station. They led to an old drainage ditch, half buried. Inside, he found a rusted radio tower, disconnected, coiled in wire, asterisk nearby. Under a tarp, a backpack, asterisk inside the backpack. Papers, maps, receipts, a child's drawing, asterisk. 6 stick figures and a vault door. Calder stood still for a long time. Then he zipped it shut and went back inside. By dusk, the storm came. Asterisk wind screamed through the shattered eaves. Calder nailed plywood across broken glass. The baby cried. One child threw up from dehydration. Calder boiled water over the hot plate and mixed it with canned peaches. Not ideal, but better than nothing. Asterisk one of the children, the boy with the missing shoe, limped over to the corner and knelt. He opened a loose panel. Behind it, a CB radio, scorched but alive. He turned the knob. Static hissed. Then a voice, faint, asterisk. Vault code not recovered. Send backup tonight? The boy shut it off fast and looked at Calder. We weren't supposed to know, he said softly. Calder crouched beside him. What's in the vault? Asterisk. The boy looked down. Proof. Asterisk. The girl with the screwdriver nodded from across the room. They killed for it. Asterisk. Calder exhaled through his nose. He didn't ask more. The wind outside cracked like a whip. Asterisk. At midnight, Calder went back to the blueprint. The part the boy had given him, it aligned with something he remembered. A buried vault under refinery sector B sealed with hydraulic steel. Everyone said it was a chemical reserve. Asterisk. But he remembered Mara Dahlström's lead systems engineer screaming at the hearing, her voice drowned by suits. It was a payoff vault, she'd said. They kept records. They paid officials. They set that fire. No one listened. She vanished the next week. Asterisk. Calder stared at the children now, sleeping in fragile circles, clutching scraps of warmth like they were gold. Asterisk. He whispered to himself, God help me. What have you all been dragged into? 3 a.m. Thunder rolled across the plains like war drums. The gas station shook. Calder stood outside, shotgun in one hand, crowbar in the other. Lightning lit up the desert asterisk and in the distance. He saw them, 3 figures, walking, not authorities, not friends. They were coming slow. Steady, without flashlights. Asterisk. Calder stepped back inside. Quietly bolted the door. Asterisk. Then he turned toward the children, sleeping in a single pool of flickering yellow light. His voice broke as he said it. Not tonight. Not while I'm breathing. The wind hadn't died. It had simply changed direction, curling behind the building now, rattling the siding like fingers scraping a coffin lid. Asterisk. Calder crouched behind the cash counter, shotgun across his knees, every muscle tight. The children were silent, awake, but silent. Fear had a way of teaching discipline where words failed. Asterisk. He peeked through the boarded window. No headlights, no engines. But he knew what he saw: 3 silhouettes moving in slow formation, cutting across the desert like wolves who already knew the taste of blood. Asterisk. He didn't say anything to the kids. Just moved them to the cellar, a root cellar behind the counter that stank of mildew and gasoline. He helped the smallest down first, then the boy with one shoe. The screwdriver girl went last, holding his gaze the whole time. Asterisk. They have names, she whispered as she descended. Asterisk. He didn't ask what she meant. He already knew. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The night grew heavier. The generator sputtered once, then died. Total blackness. Calder lit a camping lantern and sat by the boarded door. No more movement outside. Then a knock. Soft. 3. Taps. Asterisk. Not urgent, not desperate. Polite. Asterisk his breath held. He didn't answer. Another knock, then a voice. Female, calm, gravel-edged. Don't shoot. I'm not with them. Asterisk silence. Then she added, if you don't open this door in the next 15 seconds, you're going to have a blown propane line and a cellar full of suffocating children. He didn't hesitate. He unbolted the door and yanked it open. Asterisk she stepped. Inside like smoke, worn jeans, work boots. A thick utility coat, grease on her sleeves, a revolver on her hip, but her hands were empty. Her eyes green, cracked like glass. Hair tied in a loop, mid-30s, dust in every seam. Asterisk I'm Mara Quinn, she said. I designed the vault they're hunting. She didn't smile, didn't sit. Just walked straight to the counter, found the broken radio, and began. Unscrewing the casing with a worn-out multi-tool. Asterisk, you believe in patterns? She asked. Calder didn't answer. I do. You hide 6 kids in a place the world forgot, and the one guy who stops for gas just happens to be the man they burned 15 years ago? That's not chance. She looked up. That's the past. Asking you to finish what it started. Asterisk he studied her through the dim light. She wasn't bleeding, no limp. No panic. Asterisk how'd you find this place? Asterisk same way they did, she said. I followed the kids. She got the radio working. Just enough to catch whispers, garbled fragments on channel 19 inches. Vault breached, coordinates incomplete. Extraction team rerouted. Asterisk they're looking for the drawings, Mara said. They were supposed to be destroyed in the fire, but someone, maybe one of those kids, salvaged the originals. Asterisk why? Calder asked. She looked at him like the question pained her. Because it wasn't just bribes in that vault, she said. It was records, whistleblowers, names, payoffs, video. Asterisk to who? Asterisk everyone. Outside, lightning cracked like a war god had snapped his whip. Asterisk Mara looked at the kids huddled in the cellar stairwell. They're the key, she said. They were there. Not just near the site, in the underground wing. Their parents? Worked for Dahlstrom. Some tried to expose it. Most were silenced. The rest. She trailed off. One of the kids, the girl with the screwdriver, spoke up. Her voice was barely audible, but the pain in it was sharp and real. Asterisk, my mom wore a red scarf. She didn't come home that day. Asterisk Mara nodded, not blinking. No, she was the one who sent me the vault code. They fortified the gas station together. Asterisk Mara taught Calder how to wire a trapdoor to the backup propane line. He reinforced the windows with tire chains and welded plate. The girl with the screwdriver sharpened stakes using the knife Calder gave her. Asterisk. No one spoke more than necessary. No one asked who the kids were beyond what mattered. All anyone cared about now was nightfall and the men who would come with it. Asterisk that afternoon. Calder went outside to clear debris from the rear stairwell and found something buried in the gravel. Shoebox. Asterisk inside, a cassette tape. A black and white photo of a man in a lab coat. A drawing of a building. 6 stick figures inside it. Asterisk the youngest boy, the one with the rattle, toddled up behind him and pointed. That's me, he said, tapping one of the stick figures. Calder didn't question it. He brought the box to Mara. She went pale when she saw the photo. This is Everett Black, she whispered. Dahlstrom's head of security. He died in the explosion. Asterisk she opened the cassette case. Inside the cover in childlike handwriting. Asterisk if I die, tell the truth. That night the storm grew teeth. Asterisk rain came down like glass shards. The wind lifted corrugated sheet metal from the roof and slammed it into the desert like a warning. Calder kept the children in the cellar. Mara stayed topside with him, shotgun slung across her chest. At midnight, voices again, men outside. 2. No flashlights this time, just whispers. Calder and Mara moved like ghosts, flanking opposite windows. They listened. No sign of the drive. Asterisk. Find the girl with the scar. She saw the safe. Asterisk. We torch the place if we have to. Asterisk. One footstep crunched glass too close to the window. Calder raised the shotgun, but Mara stopped him with a hand. "Wait," she whispered. "Let them go deeper." They waited, then a clang from the rear. Someone had tripped the propane wire. A hiss. A spark, then a deafening roar. The entire back stairwell erupted in flame and smoke. Screams followed. One man fled limping, screaming about his eyes. The other didn't make it out. The fire died quickly. Mara had kept it controlled. Just enough for a message. The message was clear. Not this station. Not tonight? Afterward, Calder slumped by the cellar door. Mara sat across from him, legs out, chin on her knees. You ever wonder what it cost us? Calder asked. Being the ones who stayed when we should have run? She stared ahead. Sometimes. But then I think about what it cost everyone. Who didn't? He nodded, then asked the question he'd been holding since the fire. Why'd you come back? She turned her head. Because I buried something in that vault too, she said. And now I want it out. What? She paused. A video, she said, of the boardroom. Minutes before the explosion. It proves it wasn't an accident. Calder closed his eyes. His wife's name whispered in the back of his mind like it always did when he got close to this. What happens if we get it out? They fall, she said. Every one of them. In the early hours before dawn, the screwdriver girl climbed out of the cellar. Dragging a rolled piece of cloth, she unwrapped it. Inside, the full blueprint. Sector B, vault room, codes, escape shaft. Calder and Mara bent over it together. Miraz. Eyes widened. This is it, she breathed. The $400 million truth? This is what they buried under 12 lives and 2 lawsuits. Calder looked at the kids, then at the map, then at the world beyond the boarded walls. He didn't say anything, just nodded and began packing. The desert was dark and heavy when they left the gas station behind. Calder drove without headlights, tires crunching over forgotten gravel roads. Mara sat in the passenger seat, blueprint case between her boots, her hand steady on the revolver. In her lap, in the back, the children sat packed together under wool blankets, quiet but alert. The baby slept on the oldest boy's chest, wrapped in an oil-stained parka that smelled like Marlboros and steel. No one spoke. They reached the outskirts of the old Dahlstrom refinery just after 3 a.m. A monolith of concrete rebar and rust rising from the cracked ground like a skeleton that refused to stay buried. The vault was underneath Sector B, just as the blueprints had promised. Calder guided them in through a side corridor choked with soot and fallen beams. He knew every turn by memory. It was the place his life ended once. He walked like a man returning. To the scene of his own funeral, Mara led them to a steel panel behind a control board. She knelt, pried the hatch open, and pointed to a staircase curling into darkness. Vault. Shaft, she said. This goes all the way. You sure it's still sealed? Calder asked. Mara looked at him. No. She turned on her headlamp and climbed down first. He followed, one hand always on the crowbar slung across his shoulder, the other brushing the old burns beneath his shirt. The vault was still there. Massive, circular, its walls hummed. With age. The door stood like a myth thick enough to survive a bomb, but the control panel beside it still blinked. Dim green. Faint, but alive. Mara approached it slowly. The children waited at the base of the stairs, tucked into a corner, where shadow clung like cobwebs. Calder stood guard, watching the hallway behind them. Mara knelt, unscrewed the panel, and whispered a code. The keypad responded. A groan, a hiss of hydraulics. And then the vault door opened. The inside was quiet. A library of sins. Dust covered. File cabinets, digital backups sealed in nitrogen cases, hard drives, cassette tapes, microfilm, boxes stamped with government, agency seals, and international bank logos. Mara found what she was looking for, a metal case, heavy, rusting at the hinges. Inside, a video cassette labeled Board Meeting 7:12 a.m., with a single word in red across it. Inside, she held it like a relic. then handed it to Calder. Proof of the decision, she said. That they knew? He took it without a word, and that's when the scream came. From upstairs, Calder was up the stairs before he realized he was running, The girl with the screwdriver was missing. The oldest boy pointed to the shadows. They took her, there were two men quiet. Calder didn't stop to think. Just tore down the hall, boots echoing off broken tile. The night outside had turned white with floodlight beams. Someone had brought trucks. 4 of them. He ducked behind a beam and saw her struggling against the grip of a tall man in a wool coat, dragging her toward a vehicle. The man opened the door. Calder stepped out of the shadows. I wouldn't. He said. The man turned, smiled. Well, he drawled, look what the fire dragged in. Calder didn't wait. He swung the crowbar like an oath, cracked the man across the knee. The girl dropped, screamed, ran. Another man appeared from behind the truck with a pistol. Calder tackled him. They hit the ground hard, and the gun skittered into the sand. The first man rose, limping, and grabbed Calder by the collar. You think you can stop this? He hissed. Calder drove his fist into the man's throat, then his elbow into the ribs. Then silence. The girl ran back into the building. Calder stood over the men, bloody, heaving, but something in his eyes had changed. He didn't finish them. He walked away. Back inside, Mara had already begun uploading the video. She'd hooked it to a battered satellite laptop and was feeding the footage into a broadcast relay. Flickering on the screen, a room of men in suits, talking, calm. If it burns, we blame the welder. 1 dead hero is cheaper than 10 living witnesses. Calder stared, his breath caught. The voices on the tape didn't shout. They didn't even whisper, they laughed. He turned to the children huddled, hungry, scared, and made his decision. We don't bury this. The men outside returned. With guns this time. But Mara had rerouted the propane lines. The second explosion wasn't fire, it was light and smoke. Enough to scatter them, blind them. By the time they stormed the refinery, the children were already gone, evacuated through a rear hatch. Calder had welded open with an old acetylene torch. Mara and Calder didn't run, they stayed. Holding the truth in one hand, and the vault's detonation trigger in the other. The final standoff didn't last long. When the gunfire stopped, the vault was gone. So were the names. The bribes, the shadows, but the drive survived. It made it to the press. The video played on national television 2 nights later. Indictments followed. Resignations, sweeping reforms that sounded clean, sharp, heroic. None of it brought back the dead, but the lie burned, and from it something true was born. Months later, Calder stood on a ridge overlooking the desert. The gas station was gone now. Reclaimed by dust, he watched a school bus drop off 6 kids in town. They ran to a woman waiting by the fence. Mara, no longer hiding, she waved to Calder in the distance. He didn't wave back, just smiled, then turned and walked toward the horizon, a duffel bag over one shoulder and the wind at his back. The world didn't notice when he disappeared. Again, but the girl with the screwdriver carried a new name tag, now one she'd chosen herself. It read, Engineer Quinn, sometimes? Stories don't end in applause. They end in footsteps fading across the sand. But if you listened close, you could still hear the last whisper of smoke, a welder's oath, a child's truth, and the silence of a man who'd once been mocked, now the one who'd changed everything.